You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
Hey, one-hit thunderers, thunderheads, thunder buns. All right, I'll just go with one-hit thunder listeners. This is Krista Makes, guitarist and vocalist for Less Than Jake, and host of Krista Makes a Podcast, a songwriting podcast where every week I'm joined by an amazing guest to break down the writing, recording, and release of one iconic song that they have written. In our giant evergreen back catalog of episodes, we've had rock legends such as Dee Snider and Huey Lewis, punk rock favorites such as Mark Hoppus, Fat Mike, and Brett Gurewitz, up-and-coming artists of today such as Liz Stokes of the Beths and Genesis Owusu, and even some of the artists that have been featured on One Hit Thunder. The show is even produced by One Hit Thunder host Chris Fafalius. What more could you possibly ask for? Krista Makes a Podcast is available for free on all the places you listen to podcasts, and new episodes come out every Monday. I guarantee you'll like it, or we'll give you your money back.
I've got a new age girl. Tell us what she's like.
Sometimes we have to bend the rules to qualify artists as appropriate subject matter for One Hit Thunder, but not this week. Deadeye Dick are an undeniable choice, as they are almost universally known only for their catchy pop rock hit, New Age Girl. This week, we're joined by Johnny Yetsconish to decide if the Dumb and Dumber soundtrack was the exact place this song should be, or if there's more meat on the bone when it comes to this fun 90s band.
Mary Moon will outlive all the septuagenarians. Mary Moon, Mary Moon. Oh, she loves me so she hates to be alone. She don't eat meat, but sure like the bone.
One hit is all you need to make the money guaranteed, and you can live off royalties forever. And it makes me wonder, is it just a wonder, or is it one hit thunder?
All right, Johnny, so you're back, and you usually bring the thunder when you come on the podcast. We recently did a countdown episode where we noted that for 2 years in a row, you had come on to talk about what ended up being, in our ranking episode, the number one song of that year. You had Barely Breathing and you had Sinead O'Connor, Nothing Compares to You. Will you repeat that again this year? You came with Deadeye Dick, New Age Girl. I don't know if it's going to happen.
I don't know if it's going to happen. You did?
No, but going through the one-hit wonders, there's only so many songs that, I personally know. So going through the list, I almost picked Deadeye Dick the last time when I picked Tony Rich Project.
Right.
Yeah.
But the reason why I didn't was the lyrics.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I just feel like in the essence of a one-hit wonder, I feel like this is like the definition.
There's no debate.
This is a definition of a one-hit wonder.
And it's almost so ridiculous that it's like novelty music, and that is like the absolute definition of a one-hit wonder, is when it crosses over into novelty. And we'll get into why. There's one line in this song in particular that makes it like, I've talked about this. Sometimes I think, and we got to keep this in mind with another Cheetah. I like to keep this in mind with my bands. I think this is important. Sometimes you got to be so ridiculous in your song. You see this in pop music all the time, where it's something that's so stupid that it makes people pay attention. Dude, perfect example. You're a Taylor Swift fan. That Look at What You Made Me Do song is so stupid. That was like the stupidest song ever, but it was like, okay, like we're in. This is completely ridiculous. Pop stars do it all the time. In this song, of course, might as well get it out of the way. It's she don't eat meat, but she sure like the bone. Is it she sure like to bone?
She sure likes the bone.
Yeah, she sure likes the bone.
That's so outlandish and stupid and ridiculous. But it's without that line, this song probably isn't a hit, right?
I was brushing my teeth and I was thinking that line kind of makes the song cheesy, kind of like you said, a novelty song. But would it be the hit today without that line?
No, I say no. Even though the chorus is catchy, the chorus is good. The chorus is really good. The Mary Mo.
So I did pull a quote from Caleb, the main songwriter in this band, and he said, I wouldn't blame anyone for not taking me seriously as a lyricist if they listened to that song, because it is a silly song that didn't require a great deal of thought or emotional investment. It almost wrote itself. One thing it did do is absolutely worked for what it needed to be. The music sounded rockish, but that riff almost is comedic. So they support each other lyrically, and I think that had a lot to do with the song's success.
I think so. And also the subject matter of the song. It's funny, we're going to talk about vegetarianism. I feel like every time you come on here, we talk about vegetarianism and veganism. But this whole concept of like, it's new age girl, environmentalist, crystals, vegetarianism. I feel like in the mid 90s when the song came out, that's when that concept, or whatever you want to call it, that trope of a person really was at its height. I think of things like, okay, Matt, I might be a little bit off on this and you would be the expert on this, but like I would think of Daria. I would think of like this was really a thing that people, it was a type of person. It was like an alternative girl.
I
you know?
would say that at the year that this came out, so we're talking like 1993, it peaks at 1995. I would say the person that this song would best describe in the pop culture world would have been Phoebe on Friends.
Okay, right.
Hippie vegetarian.
Well,
like,
I mean, they described as a socially conscious vegetarian,
Right. Yeah.
Like, which sounds awesome to me.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and today
that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, I think I think today that type of person is also popular.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think especially if they're cute, you know, like a cute girl that like cares about the world. I mean, that's always been there's different levels of it, but like, I don't think that I would personally could be attracted to someone who didn't at least care a little bit about other people. Empathy is like definitely an attractive quality. Somebody that was like, that's why I would never like someone that was a Republican. No matter what they look like, people will fight with me about this. And I'm like, no, I just wouldn't be attracted no matter what they look like. It could look like Megan Fox. She's a Fox. You know, she's
perfect last name.
I mean, she's from that family, which I've never heard her like politics or whatever, but you have to assume to a certain extent, maybe she has slightly, I don't know, maybe not. Maybe that's wrong
Who
of me
knows?
to assume.
There are plenty of people who don't agree with their family business.
Right.
stuff.
But someone that even looks like that, if she was like, yeah, I like Trump, I'd be like, ew, gross. I'm not so I think there is.
I'm kind of like that with bangs.
Yeah, Johnny hates bangs haircuts.
You know those can be cut, right?
Grow them out.
Yeah, I think that everything about this song equates to a perfect song. It is the subject matter about describing this girl. A lot of people probably could relate to it and think it's fun. It's easy to know what it's about. It's just describing this girl. Catchy as hell. That riff almost reminds me of another One Hit Thunder thing we talked about on here. Was like The Knack.
Yeah.
You know, it's like bump, bump, bump. It sounds almost like nursery rhyme-ish
Well,
or
and
childish.
I kind of agree with what he said, where he's like, the riff is almost comedic in a
Yes.
sense. Like, it's like, dun,
wacky.
da, 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 rah.
Yeah, that too. That's another hook. It's just going rah. Like that thing. Everything about the song is perfectly crafted, but it's so silly that it almost spills over into novelty because of all that stuff.
He had another quote. I wrote down two really big quotes from him because I bought this album.
So did I.
And I kind of only liked New Age Girl. So I came into this ready to be like, yeah, this is definitely a classic. They had one good song. But the more quotes I read from the guy, the more I'm like, God damn it, I do like this guy. Like so this was the other quote he wrote, which tackles something that we always hate on this show, which is someone who hates their hit song. He said, had the song not been a hit, it's possible that people maybe would have been more prepared to think of us as a cool band. There's a lot of would've, could've, and should've's, but we're very fortunate. Even if we didn't get to live out some permanent rock and roll dream, we got to have a nice ride. And there's so much in my life after Deadeye Dick that was benefited positively from the fact that we had a good song.
I mean, I love that. You got to love when someone embraces their hit. Man, take a drink because I'm about to say it.
You'd kill for a hit.
I would love to have a hit. So I love when people embrace the hit. Johnny and I were arguing about this before this episode, maybe yesterday, day before. But this song being in Dumb and Dumber is what made it a hit, right?
That's what I kept reading. So the way that it was broken down to me, and so they had a loyal following, but they still never could land a record label. Like they couldn't get a deal, but they self-published a record of New Age Girl. So they knew that they had something with this song. They like fished it. They put out the money themselves, made the single, and it started to gain some regional airplay on like a lot of different
New
areas,
Orleans.
New Orleans, Atlanta, stuff
Yes.
like that. Then they landed a record deal with an independent label who released the song. And then when the song was picked for the Dumb and Dumber soundtrack, that's when the publicity of the film really focused on it, and it became like this novelty indie hit into like a national mainstream hit from that movie.
So I agree that it blew it up, but it was gaining steam on its own.
Yeah.
So they recorded like a 4-song cassette, put it out to radio stations on it, just put it out self-produced, no label, and the song started. Obviously, how else would the Dumb and Dumber people know to put it
Right.
on there? It had to have some sort of airplay somewhere.
Right. So, but what I was arguing with you about is that Dumb and Dumber was out by the time you got this album, because I think that's how the music video. Did the music video have clips from Dumb and Dumber?
No, the music video was them in the pumpkin patch.
Yeah. I watched the
Okay.
video. It's a pretty interesting video.
Yeah. Okay. But it was definitely
So peak number 27 on Billboard 100 chart in January 95.
okay.
So I'd imagine I probably heard it because of Dumb and Dumber. I didn't hear it on these local stations, but I didn't buy the Dumb and Dumber soundtrack. I bought the actual CD.
Yes, right. And probably maybe you hadn't even seen Dumb and Dumber yet, but the movie was out. The movie helped blow the song up, and that's inadvertently, even if you heard the song before you saw the movie, it was the movie
Yes.
that really gave the
Yeah,
song a push.
and the scene in Dumb and Dumber, it's Jeff Bridges is meeting Lauren Holly in the ski lodge. He walks in this crazy orange outfit with his helmet on, with his skis on, knocks over all the skis.
Right.
You know, everyone in the place looks at him. And then it cuts to Jim Carrey, who's also thinking he's meeting Lauren Kelly. And he goes up to the bellhop guy, and he's dressed as a cowboy. And he acts like he's going to pull a gun out to shoot the guy, and he gives him 2 $1 bills.
Right. Yeah. So that was such a huge movie. I mean, you're talking Jim Carrey where did this fall in Jim Carrey's?
This is the highest paid Jim Carrey at this point. So he did Ace Ventura and The Mask and Dumb and Dumber in the same year.
Jeez.
1994, all 3 of those movies dropped. But Ace Ventura was crushing it. And I'm pretty sure at the time he was the highest paid actor for any role because of this movie.
How fast things happen for Jim Carrey.
I mean, 94 was good for everything.
Yeah, 94. We all know 94 was the best year ever. Movies, music, maybe TV, but movies and music for sure. But Jim Carrey, wow, did he? And I was an Adam Sandler guy. I felt like he had to pick a side, and I thought Adam Sandler was so much more funny than Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey was on Living Color. Looking back now, Jim Carrey was actually really funny. I picked my side, and I liked In Living Color. I didn't like Jim Carrey on In Living Color.
I didn't know you had to pick a side. I liked Adam Sandler and Jim Carrey.
Yeah,
I was into both of them.
I felt the
same
loyalty.
as like, Van Damme and Seagal. I liked both of them.
Yeah,
You know?
I picked sides. I don't know why, but another thing I talked to Johnny about before we talked about this is that years later, I was still in high school, so it was probably only like a year later or something. In the town that Johnny and I grew up in, Bell Vernon, there was a store called GC Murphy's. And I don't know, was it just a Bell Vernon, or was it like, were there other GC Murphy's? Maybe it was like a regional store.
I don't know.
It was a weird ass store.
It was like Hills or Kmart.
No, it was a little weirder. It was more like not as extreme as Matt. Do you know what an Ollie's bargain outlet is?
I mean, I get a rough idea based on the bargain outlet portion of it.
I mean, it's a store where you walk in, kind of like a dollar store in a way, where it was like one aisle was like pet food, the next aisle was like paper products, next aisle was toys. Like it was like nonsense kind of. GC Murphy's was like that. They also had like an aquarium section.
Yeah, they had animals you could get there.
Animals. There was a little cafe in there, I think.
My Bubba worked there for a bunch of years.
Nice.
So I would hang out at GC Murphy's.
Yeah, GC Murphy's. But they had at one point a bin of CDs. Matt would have loved it. He would have raided this thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I do believe that I remember seeing Deadeye Dick, a bunch of Deadeye Dick CDs in there for 49 cents.
Deadeye Dick, there's another artist who we haven't covered yet, but The Flies. I would say that anytime I looked at a used CD section, there was a lot of The Flies, Got You Where I Want You, and Deadeye Dick with
Yeah.
New Age Girl CDs hanging out
Do you
in there.
think Dollar General is selling any of these CDs?
Probably. After this, I'm heading to a used CD store.
He's going to CD Warehouse after this.
So I want to just bring up something with Dumb and Dumber real quick because I looked it up. So Jim Carrey was paid $7 million to do Dumb and Dumber off the success of Ace Ventura, which is 10 times what he got paid to be in Ace Ventura.
Wow.
New Line Cinema wanted Nicolas Cage to be his co-star, but Nick Cage wanted $2 million, and they signed Jeff Daniels instead. Keep in mind, Jim Carrey, $7 million. How much do you think they paid Jeff Daniels to be the co-star?
I'm trying to think what Jeff Daniels had done up to this point, because now I think of him as being in so much stuff, but $250,000.
50,000.
Whoa. Damn.
50,000 because New Line didn't want him in the movie because he was only known for a dramatic actor, and Daniels wanted to prove he could do comedy.
Wow.
So he took a pay as low as they were willing to pay him to
50.
give a chance to show that he had like a comedic chops as well.
Wow, that's insane.
I might have pulled a Matt Kelly. I think I called him Jeff Bridges.
It's all right.
Jeff Bridges is the dude.
Yeah. The other people that they were considering for that same role, though, were Chris Elliott and Rob Lowe.
Oh, I'm trying to think of the movie with one of the Rob Lowe.
Chris Elliott would have killed
Chris
it.
Elliott would have killed it,
Yeah,
actually.
Chris Elliott is such an underrated, funny guy.
Schitt's Creek, he's really good in.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, just everything. I mean, he was even funny in Groundhog Day. He had a small role, but yeah, he's awesome. Cabin Boy, he's really Get a Life. Jeez, Chris Elliott rules.
So Caleb Gillette, if that's how you say his name, he thought of that guitar riff in the shower.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that's just how it happened. So that knacky riff that you said, just in the shower, he thought about it, and then New Age Girl came out.
And sorry, I did get some information wrong that I want to clarify. It wasn't Dumb and Dumber where he hit like a peak payment. It was the Cable Guy.
Oh, wow.
With the Cable Guy, he became the first actor to ever be paid $20 million to be in a movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, the Cable Guy. And that
was made by his friend, which makes it all the weirder because that was a Ben Stiller movie.
Something else, Jim Carrey, Eternal Sunshine. I guess, what's the guy's name who did the movie?
Michel Gondry.
Michel Gondry, yeah. I guess Jim Carrey was really depressed at that point. And he said, hey, I don't want you to get better. He's like, I need you like this for this role.
Wow.
So filming that role, he was basically in character in his own life. And he said, that's why the movie industry is, just so hard to be in, because I was actually depressed and they wanted me to be that way.
Well, that's why John Hughes, while we're talking about how Hollywood can suck, John Hughes walked away from filmmaking after John Candy died because he was constantly trying to get John Candy to eat healthier and lose weight. But John Candy was literally terrified that no one would cast him if he wasn't like the fat fall down guy.
wow.
So when John Candy eventually died of the heart attack, he's like, I don't want to have anything to do with this company, this industry that's going to make people live unhealthy lifestyles in order to feel like they could be the only way to be a success.
Wow.
Hollywood sucks, man.
Yeah.
Hot take. What?
Yeah.
Ready for a head-bangingly good time? Dive into the world of heavy metal with the Brutally Delicious podcast. Here, we don't just talk music. We welcome you into our heavy metal family. Join us for candid chats with legends and rising stars. We go beyond the typical interviews, exploring raw emotions and the life-altering impact of heavy metal. So whether you're a diehard metalhead or just curious, join our family and let the headbanging begin with the Brutally Delicious podcast.
Hey there, I am Johnny Christ from Avenged Sevenfold, and I've got a podcast called Drinks with Johnny you're going to want to check out. I sit down with a bunch of different people from all different walks of life, from professional wrestlers to actors, comedians, fighters, musicians, everything in between. I'm just looking to make some friends and have a good time doing it. So if that sounds like something you're into, go check out Drinks with Johnny, streaming everywhere now.
It is mind-blowing
and heartbreaking
how many original scripts are written every year but are never made.
So we seek out these scripts and bring them to life with full audio production and professional actors.
Check us out at Undiscovered Scripts,
Movies made of paper,
wherever you get your podcasts.
free.
So this song, I'd have been 13, 14, depending on when I heard it first. But, I was already, as we know, I'm a vegetarian, but I was already thinking about it, cutting out meats, reading books, watching those slaughterhouse videos that no one should watch if you ever want to eat meat again.
Yeah.
But these lyrics, you know, as cheesy as they are, I mean, they stuck out to me because it was talking about a vegetarian. I was like, oh, this could be interesting. So as cheesy as that was, I mean, maybe the subject matter minus the like in the bone part, you know, actually pull people in.
Right. Hey, we talked about this the other day. You're like, we'll outlive all the septuagenarians. I'm like, yeah, that means people in their 70s. Septuagenarians, if anyone who's wondering, like octogenarians is people in their 80s.
Yeah, so it's a person who is 70 to 79 years old.
Yes.
Which when I first became a vegetarian way back in 96, let's say, everyone talks shit. This is so unhealthy. You need protein. You know, you're going to die.
You do.
You know, you can get it other ways, but
Yeah.
everyone thought a vegetarian was not the way to be. But today, I think it's across medical, people say it's better.
Right. As long as you're not eating only French fries or something.
Yeah, so septuagenarian,
Yeah.
he sounds like he says septuagenarians. Like the way he says it sounds like DI, you know, but that's not. So I think he has a little bit of play on that word.
Yeah.
Like when you listen to it, he's not, he breaks it out, like the syllables of it, and it doesn't sound like how it's supposed to be pronounced.
Well, speaking of that, it wasn't until I printed out the lyrics to this song, I thought it was Mary Mall. Mary Mall.
Yeah, Mary Moon.
But it's Mary Moon. Like there's no ooh sound to me.
Mary Moon.
It sounds like like
Yeah.
Mary Mall, I thought it was. Once again, fun song.
So let's talk about charts real quick.
Yes.
All right, hit 27 on the Billboard Hot 100.
So not a smash
Not
hit,
a
really.
smash.
But it was an MTV hit.
But it was an
feels like.
MTV hit, January 7th, 1995.
Mm-hmm.
Number one song on Bended Knee, Boys to Men.
Such a jam.
Love to see it. One of the more confusing things I saw was that just below it at 29 was The Four Seasons with December 1963. I guess it got re-released for some reason. That, oh, what a night. Like, I'm trying to think if that was in a movie or something at that time or what.
Well, look, it was number 27 on the Billboard Hot 100, but I would say it was as well known by the masses as on Bended Knee, if not more.
Well, so let's look at what it was also around at that time. So some songs I thought were comparable was like at 25 was Hootie and the Blowfish, Hold My Hand. Mm-hmm. At 23 was I'll Stand By You by the Pretenders. Mm-hmm. At 22 was You Don't Know How It Feels by Tom Petty. Like these are all like...
You left out 100% Pure Love by Crystal Waters.
I did leave that out. I'm sorry about that.
And All I Want to Do by Sheryl Crow was number 17 at the time. You Gotta Be by Desiree.
Gotta Be was there.
was 16.
Short Dick Man by 20 Fingers was
I
on
know. Short Dick Man was on here. And that was number 14.
Yeah, Short Dick Man did better than Deadeye Dick.
Do you remember?
I don't know that song.
You don't know Short Dick Man?
No.
It was on MTV. It was Short Tort Man, I think was like the
that's about
censored
right.
version. I can't believe Short Dick Man was that high on the charts. But I will agree that this Deadeye Dick song was probably because of the movie. The movie was so popular that even if the Billboard charts didn't reflect it, because there's plenty of these songs on this thing. Like there are some really funny ones on here. Take a Bow by Madonna was number 12. You Want This, Janet Jackson, number 10. I'll Make Love to You was number 9, which I don't know if it was on the way up or on the way down.
It was on the way down.
On the way down. Tootsie Roll from the 69 Boys, which we got to do.
That's got to be on the list. I
Yeah.
can't believe that's not a
Sounds like a
on the
song
list.
PJ would do.
Cotton candy sweet as gold. Let me see that Tootsie Roll. You know, Another Night from Real
We
McCoy.
can't escape this fucking song. I feel like it's always on the chart.
Yeah. Here Comes the Hot Stepper was at number 3, and Creep from TLC was...
Actually, hold on a second. Remember when we were doing, it was like the trivia game that we did with the Friends thing, and it was like Real McCoy's Another Night was named as the most played song in radio history. I'm starting to realize that is very valid based on how many times it's been in the top 10, no matter what year in the 90s we're doing a countdown.
It was, I guess the 90s were just literally that club scene from the Saturday Night Live with Will Ferrell and Chris Kattan.
Everyone was trying to go to the Roxbury.
The Roxbury, yeah.
Is that the
nonstop.
song?
It's Hadaway.
It's What Is Love.
What Is Love is this, but it was just Europop was like all over the pop stations for a while. Yeah. Also, just again, throwing out dumb. I think people have forgotten how big Dumb and Dumber was, like how much of a success that movie was. 17 million was what it cost to make, and it brought in $247.3 million.
That's insane.
It was a massive.
Sounds like a Jordan Peele movie.
Yeah. I can't believe. Yeah, that totally makes sense. I mean, this song might have been, I can't believe the chart performance wasn't better, because just the amount of spins that it was getting in the actual movie.
Yeah.
Like if it did that good at the box office, it was probably heard by more ears than some of these songs in the top 10 at that time. So it's kind of surprising it wasn't higher. Maybe it was because it was a little more rock based, that it wasn't on the top 40 channels as much. I don't know what the deal was.
I actually never, as much as I'm a soundtrack guy, I never picked up the soundtrack to this movie.
What else is on it?
Also on there was Crash Test Dummies, The Ballad of Peter Pumpkinhead. I love this song. It's the opening scene from the movie. Oh, these are songs that didn't make it into the movie, into the soundtrack. Was Apache Indians Boom Shakalaka, which is like literally the very beginning of the wind your body and wiggle your belly.
Oh, wait,
it's like
no.
him like walking through the street with like his big goofy cowboy hat and shit. Nick Cave's Red Right Hand was not included. By the Crash Test Dummies didn't make it. Roy Orbison's Pretty Woman didn't make it. And Rolling Down the Hill by the Rembrandts that we talked about didn't make it.
So all those songs were in the movie, but didn't make the soundtrack.
Didn't make it into the movie.
How many songs were in this movie?
Apparently quite a few, but I can't find the track listing. Beck was approached about having Loser in the soundtrack, but he refused. He said, I remember getting a phone call one day. My manager said, there's this film. They want to use Loser as the theme song. Then there was a long pause, and he said, the name of the film is Dumb and Dumber. And I just remembered, well, that sums up what the world thinks of me at this point. And I tried to have fun with it and tried not to take it too seriously. But at the same time, I was just so disheartened at that point in my career.
Something weird about this. I mean, the short dick guy or whatever it's called.
short dick man, right? Or
yeah, by 20 fingers.
Yeah. I mean, I guess they had to call someone on MTV, but the guy who wrote the song said that they obscured the word bone, like on the radio. Like
you can't sure like the
like you can't say bone on the radio.
Wow. That's
Caleb's
really
his name.
That's really a stretch. I feel like they let a lot of things go, and they didn't let him say bone.
They didn't let him say bone. All right, so some of the other songs on the soundtrack, I did pull up the track list. The Primitives, Crash. You know,
no.
Here you go, way too fast. Don't slow down, you're gonna crash. It's a good song. Hurdy-Gurdy Man, covered by Butthole Surfers. Green Jello got on there with a song called The Bear Song. Delight was on there with You Sexy Thing. I guess it's a cover of I Believe in Miracles. And The Proclaimers with Get Ready.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you guys listen to any other Deadeye Dick songs?
Yeah, I listened to the whole album.
Wow.
I listened to this album that was on. And I got to say, not music that I would necessarily listen to, but not bad songs.
It's not bad. It's just not for me. So one thing that's interesting with that particular album is that it's not available on Spotify and Apple Music
It is not. YouTube, though. And then YouTube, you watch it, there's 10 videos there, and there's actually like videos that like they might have made after the fact. So I just kind of listened to and watched it on YouTube.
So the band reunited just to re-record New Age Girl because the record label filed for bankruptcy, and that's why the song's not available anywhere. So they just did a re-record so they could provide it on streaming sites.
I saw that on Apple Music. I mean, there's a 2021 edition of New Age Girl. And I'm like, why is there a new edition to this song?
They got to get those sweet streaming rights from us.
Well, yeah. I mean, why not? Especially if you re-record it. I mean, look, once again, bringing her up at Taylor Swift, re-recording her back. I mean, it's a very smart thing to do, especially if you have like this love for your back catalog. And if you're lucky enough to have a hit, you might as well make the money on it.
Remember, we said that we think Alana Miles did that because she re-recorded Black Velvet, and that was the first time she got royalty payments for the song.
Right.
So going back to the success of this song, after being recorded on a cassette, alongside 4 other songs, the track became a local radio hit, prompting Ichiban Records to sign the band. Clive Davis of Arista Records attempted to sign the band afterwards, and they said no.
I love they turned down Clive Davis. That's awesome.
Now we're good.
I didn't listen to the whole album. They had a video for a song called Perfect Family, which wasn't bad. I thought it was an all right song.
They have a song called Molly on there, and it's like pictures of just like random, like a slideshow of just pictures of a girl. Like it almost looks like pictures from MySpace.
Who we can only assume is Molly.
They had a song called Anyone that was like a really chill song, like kind of jazzy. I was surprised by that. I mean, It was probably worth the 49 cents that they were selling the CD for. And I hope you get a Deadeye Dick CD today, Matt, when you go to the CD
I already
store.
had it. I told you.
You already have it. And hey, I'm not talking shit on albums being sold for $1 at Dollar Tree and stuff, because you know what? My band CDs are sold at Dollar Tree. It's like once a week someone sends me a picture like, hey, I got 37 everywhere at Dollar Tree. And I don't even feel bad about it, because for a couple reasons. Number one reason I don't feel bad about it is nobody buys CDs anymore except for Matt. And so at least they're not just thrown in a dumpster somewhere and someone's psyched about it. Second of all, in those Dollar Trees, like when people, there's a couple YouTubes where people go to a Dollar Tree and they have a lot of views on them and like skim through the CDs. And it's a lot of good artists that I like. It'll be like, oh, here's Punchline. Here's Dashboard Confessional. Here's Goldfinger. Like, I'm like, oh, this isn't like embarrassing. This just means there's people stopped buying CDs like right around the time of 37 Everywhere album came out in like 2005 or 6 or something.
Yeah, because 2007 was when I bought Just Say Yes.
Yeah, that was getting towards the end of people buying things. They bought stuff on iTunes.
But it is funny. So like, I think we got into this on one of the Weird Al podcasts that hasn't come out yet. But like Matt and I were talking about, he for many years worked at a record store, and he said it is very funny to see how the value of things changes. And he's like, I saw it in real time where like people would bring in these estate sales of records. Mm-hmm. And he's like, in something like Phil Collins' No Jacket Required, like it's like that album must have just been handed to every person that bought a record. So it would sit in the dollar bin. He goes, and then literally over time, it's like, suddenly it becomes a $3 record. Mm-hmm. Then it becomes a $5 record. Now it's suddenly this $7 or $8 record because people are buying record players again. And they're like, oh, I want to get like the full Phil Collins collection. It's like, it's weird that things will just go in this rotation. Cassettes are back suddenly.
Yeah, I don't think I'm buying into the cassettes thing, only because that's such a bad format. Like if you put those cassettes in like a too warm of a room or like they
CD
get ruined.
is definitely safer than cassette.
Well, I mean, your other band Pack played a show the other night with a band called Tiny Wars, and I think they only had their music on cassette.
I think it's a novelty more than anything because it's cheap to produce and you can put a download code card inside the cassette tape.
Well, the thing about, exactly. I mean, you don't even need a download card. You just go stream the thing wherever.
Yeah.
It's more like, here's this item that represents you supporting our art. And a lot of people like records because they're big. You can frame them. I wonder how many people actually even listen to them when they buy them, because it's more like a collectible. And it's almost like sometimes, I want to keep that thing preserved and perfect.
Yeah.
It's more like a representation because you're only just going to listen to it streaming anyway. So a cassette's just as cool if it's this cool thing. Stranger Things made cassettes cool.
Cassettes for their soundtracks.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, people say that people can go buy my album right now. Like, do people actually buy to like download albums? Is that a thing?
I do, but
why do you do it?
So my fear, and maybe this is just being paranoid, but case in point, Deadeye Dick's album is nowhere to be found if you wanted to just listen to it while driving, unless I wanted to pull it up on YouTube and individually change the tracks. So like, I like just having a physical copy of something that I can load into the computer. And if I want to, because I still listen to music through an iPod. I put everything on my iPod.
You are such a dramatic minority.
And I know.
And I appreciate that, because as people that make music, you rely on the Matt Kellys of the world.
We need Matt Kelly. We need more Matt Kellys.
And unfortunately, he's a very rare person. I think the only way it works is on things like Bandcamp. And I think the way it works on there is if you release something on there that isn't streaming. And it's like, go pay 99 cents for this song.
You can even set, like, I've seen Bandcamps where it's like, you'll go and click into an album and it'll have like one song that's playable in Bandcamp. Mm-hmm. And then it says like, pay $5 to get the full out. Like, you can't even listen to it on Bandcamp without paying the money to download the album physically.
Well, it's a question. It really does get down to so what do you want? What do you want? Do you want to put the music out there so anyone can listen to it at any time for free, however they listen to music? Or are you trying to make that $1 at a time? And what I've gotten at over the years is I just want as many people to hear it. So maybe it comes up, maybe whatever money's going to comes a different way, whether it's coming to our shows, buying a t-shirt, buying a record, or I look at every song you release into the world as a little lottery ticket, where it's like you get lucky and your song catches on because people use it on TikTok, or just the quality of the people, it just connects with people so much that it blows up, or you get added to a playlist that a million people listen to. And that, I just look at it as every time you release a song, it's a little lottery ticket.
Well, I mean, I think we might have talked about this before, but the first artist I'd listened to that said, hey, I'm just going to release my music for free and not put it out is The Weeknd. He put 3 albums out.
Right.
And also he was shrouded in mystery. I think for the first couple years, he didn't show his face.
Yeah.
So you didn't know clue what he looked like, and he didn't put any albums out except for download.
Well, I'll tell you one thing you can do for Chris, and I don't know if I ever told you that I do this, but I did become friends with a bunch of the cast members of the newest season of The Circle on Netflix. And one of the things that they kept doing for a while was they would make a playlist, but for 1 hour, they would let anybody who wanted to add songs to it. And I always would throw 2 or 3 Punchline songs on that playlist, just in case one of them caught fire.
Appreciate that. And, you know,
if you ever see a celebrity opening up the access on a Spotify playlist, throw some of your favorite unknown bands in there, and I mean, you might change their lives.
That's all you could do. Bringing it back to Deadeye Dick. One more thing I have to talk about Deadeye Dick real quick. I was like, I typed Deadeye Dick in and I'm looking for songs, and some Screamo band comes up. Like, there's a Screamo band called Deadeye Dick, and it was from like the mid 2008 or 2009 or something. And I was like, how did these guys not Google search Deadeye Dick? And it was like a music video that was like, you know, looked decent, and they were, you know, a decent recording, and it was Screamo, metalcore music or whatever. It wasn't my thing, but I was like, these guys didn't search and realize that there's a band called Deadeye Dick. What are the chances? I know it's a Kurt Vonnegut novel or something, or it was a character in a Kurt Vonnegut book.
The Kurt Vonnegut novel, I mean, it's crazy. The novel's main character, Rudy Waltz, or known as Deadeye Dick, commits accidental manslaughter as a child when he shoots the gun out of a window and fatally strikes a pregnant woman. Rudy was so traumatized and guilt-ridden by the incident, he lives life as an asexual neuter, neither homosexual nor heterosexual.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, Kurt, if anybody who's read a Kurt Vonnegut book before realize they're like really crazy to the point where a lot of people would read those books and be like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
But that's why they're classics. They're so
and
original.
In that, you know, the Deadeye Dick character, his father was a young man, lived in Austria, and was one of the few people who was actually friends with Adolf Hitler before his rise to power.
Right.
So, I mean, it's just kind of one of those Forrest Gump things, you know, where like all these things just intersect, because I doubt any of that stuff's true.
Yeah, they're all so wild, and they're all allegories for things. But I think that's the appeal of Vonnegut. If you've ever read Breakfast of Champions or anything else, that's the appeal of it. All right, so we got to make a decision. Deadeye Dick. Did they bring the one-hit thunder, or were they a one-hit blunder? I mean, there's not a lot to go on here.
I mean, this is the first time that I haven't brought a song that I fully loved, that I did love it as a kid. I even listen to it now and think it's all right. The lyrics are just cheesy. And I usually bring a song that I absolutely love, and I think it's a one-hit thunder, but I got to go blunder.
Yeah.
They haven't done anything.
Yeah,
they broke up. They disbanded a few years later. I mean, he said him and another band member in New Orleans is still playing music 20 years later. So, I mean, that's cool, but I don't think that Deadeye Dick, for what it was, is just your classic one-hit thunder, which we translate to be a blunder.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on that too. Again, everything I've read about the dude Caleb who wrote this song, his quotes, everything seems cool as hell. Like, this is Caleb. If you want to come on and tell us how wrong we are about
yeah,
this,
Caleb, we think you're cool. We think you're cool.
You're like, this is not a diss against the band. Not my thing. I think that this is a really fun song. I don't think that Deadeye Dick is like this amazing band that everyone who's listening really needs to dig into the back catalog and find these hidden gems or anything like that. Like, if you only know New Age Girl, I think you've got what you need out of this band.
Yeah, and I think that at the time, and we've referenced this a lot of time, 1995, this is peak. I only like punk rock music. Anything that's on the radio sucks. And I thought this song was really stupid. I may have had a laugh about the "she don't eat meat, but she sure liked the bone" line or whatever, but didn't like it at the time. I think I like it a little bit more now. I appreciate the songwriting craft of it. Like, kind of wish I wrote it. I'd have kept the "she don't eat meat, but she sure liked the bone" line out of it, and that would have been the downfall of it. It's catchy. The chorus is catchy as hell.
The bridge is awesome. The bridge, listen to the bridge. Yeah, that's awesome. And then it goes into an instrumental rock part, which has some really cool guitar parts. I love when people just don't shred the guitar, where they add, it's like classy. Like they add chords in there and they do some of that shredding and go back and forth. It's just not all shredding, but the instrumental part's awesome too.
Yeah, I mean, it's like jangle pop, I guess is what you would call it. It would be like a wackier Gin Blossoms. Like they could have played a show at the Gin Blossoms and it would have been totally fine. It's not like in your face loud guitars, but like you guys said, this is kind of all they did. Caleb and Mark went on in the New Orleans scene as producers. I think that's cool, but they didn't really do anything else. And so much so that 10 or 15 years later, there was a screamo band called Deadeye Dick who didn't even know that this band existed. And it's a blunder, but I do appreciate the fact that they know that they had a good thing. They knew that it's pretty cool that they had.
Hopefully, they made a bunch of money off of it.
Yeah, I would think they probably
did decent,
and they might still be making money.
Yeah,
I'm sure they get. I'm sure. My guess, and I have no idea, is that these guys, whoever is credited with the songwriting here, I mean, just on Dumb and Dumber getting played alone. Hey, I make $100 a year because of Van Wilder too.
Sick movie.
Yeah. I make, it's actually the last couple of years I really haven't made much on that. But if they played on Comedy Central, I would get like $20 every time it aired somewhere.
It's nice they still pay artists for that.
Yeah, I mean, and sometimes you got to pursue it, but sometimes it just comes in through ASCAP. I would guess that based on Dumb and Dumber alone, that these guys probably make a couple $1,000s a year on it, and
nothing.
They might have made $1 million when it was out, just based on being in Dumb and Dumber, what they paid them, radio. Because I think maybe back then,
did they get a cut of every soundtrack sold and stuff like that too, or I don't know how that works out.
Well, yeah, in the '90s when people still bought CDs and MTV was a huge thing. I think that people made a lot more on music when people had to go out and physically buy the album. I don't know how many albums these guys sold, but yeah, maybe all in all, these guys probably made $1 million. So good for them. Good for them.
You are a work of art, and I lower value from the start. I've got to make a move, or you're moving away. Look at me, and maybe you'll see something more than just me, and make it better.
This has been One Hit Thunder. One Hit Thunder is hosted by Chris Othalios of the bands Punchline, Pack, and Another Cheetah, and produced by Matt Kelly of Geekscape.net. Underneath me, you're hearing Punish or Privilege off the Punchline album Just Say Yes. Visit punchline.com for merch, tour dates, and news. We're on Patreon now. Become a patron and get bonus content, early episodes, and a chance to vote on future episodes at patreon.com/OHT Podcast. Do you want to start a podcast? Contact Chris or myself at weknowpodcasting.com for how we can make your show sound as professional as possible. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to us on your favorite podcasting app. And tune in next week for more One Hit Thunder.
Punish me or privilege me with you. Oh, yeah. Punish me or privilege me with you.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.
Ready for a head-bangingly good time? Dive into the world of heavy metal with the Brutally Delicious Podcast. Here, we don't just talk music. We welcome you into our heavy metal family. Join us for candid chats with legends and rising stars. We go beyond the typical interviews, exploring raw emotions and the life-altering impact of heavy metal. So whether you're a diehard metalhead or just curious, join our family and let the headbanging begin with the Brutally Delicious Podcast.
This is Krista Makes, guitarist and vocalist for Less Than Jake, and host of Krista Makes a Podcast, a songwriting podcast where every week I'm joined by an amazing guest to break down the writing, recording, and release of one iconic song from their career. In our giant evergreen back catalog of episodes, we've had rock legends such as Dee Snider and Huey Lewis, punk rock favorites like Mark Hoppus, Fat Mike, and Brett Gurewitz, and up-and-coming artists of today such as Liz Stokes of the Beths and Genesis Owusu. We've had guests from all genres and styles of music, and I guarantee that if you peruse our back catalog, you'll see several episodes that'll make you say, man, I gotta hear that. Whether you're a fan of music or a creator of music yourself, you'll take away a whole new appreciation for the songs you know and love. Krista Makes a Podcast is available for free on all the places you could possibly listen to podcasts, and new episodes come out every Monday.